Hey everybody, look what I dug up. Bone shard blue light blocking glasses. I'm gonna start wearing these just to see if they help me wind down. They're supposed to be good for the evenings when you're using lighting. Anyway, that's not what the video is about. You know, when you finally escape the grind and you retire, you suddenly find yourself with the greatest asset on earth, time, and hopefully a lot more of it. But that's when you also start focusing on the other asset you've likely neglected, your health. If you're like me, one of the first things you want to do at that time is get back into peak physical condition like you were in your 20s. For me, the second best time when I was in shape was in my 40s. But there's a dark side to this, of course. When you combine an ambitious mindset and an empty calendar, it's an incredibly easy way to fall into an ultimate fitness trap. Overtraining over 50. We all listen to the motivational fitness gurus screaming, no pain, no gain, pushing yourself to the limits. Keep in mind that these people have been working out their entire lives and they're likely professional trainers. You know, nobody talks about the biological tax of just being a weekend warrior or working out part-time 1 or 2 hours for most people a week. Today I'm going to share a raw personal retirement fail and how trying to get fit too fast can completely backfire, and why overtraining in 50s is probably counterproductive compared to when you were younger. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I absolutely abused my body. Contact sports, heavy gym sessions, eating everything and anything. I can't believe the amount of calories that I took in. I was probably about 4 to 5,000 calories a day at least. I slept for 4 or 5 hours a day, and I was always waking up ready to crush the next day. Eventually, for most people though, career and families take over and they limit our time in the gym. For me, it was career and limited resources due to the context I worked in. It just wasn't anything available, and it was dangerous to go outside in many cases. But in retirement, that pacemaker is completely gone. Now you have all day. You feel motivated, you look at the pictures of your youth, and your brain remembers the strength and the stamina you had decades ago, and your ego tells you if a 45-minute workout is good, a 2-hour workout must be twice as good. But your mind doesn't age at the same rate as your tendons, your joints, and your recovery systems. When you train, you're tearing down your body and muscles. It's when you actually are resting when your body is recovering and growing. Over 50, you aren't building muscle faster. You're actively tearing your body down faster than it can rebuild if you don't give adequate recovery time. In your 20s, overtraining just means that you're sore. Over 50, overtraining means that you're potentially injuring yourself, which could take months to heal. And there's a chemical side that I've been hearing more of recently. It's very interesting timing, and it's a factor that I think I'm personally struggling with. When you overtrain at our age, you trigger physical stress, which sends cortisol levels through the roof. If you're struggling with unexplained weight loss blocks like I am, and still waking up to nightmares and sometimes in a panic, high cortisol might be the hidden culprit. The 3 major causes for high cortisol levels are excessive exercise without adequate rest, chronic lack of sleep, and psychological stress. And this can be a vicious cycle, which I think I'm in. The 3 symptoms are stubborn body fat retention, constant fatigue after resting, a compromised immune system, where you sometimes catch everything under the sun. You think you're burning fat, but your hormones are actually ordering your body to store it for survival. After 30, our bodies start losing muscle mass every single year, and our tendons and ligaments lose their elasticity. That means when we cross 50, our joints are much more brittle and prone to tiny tears. The second thing is your older bodies take way longer to repair muscle tissue after a hard workout, where a 25-year-old kid can bounce back within 24 hours. It can take someone over 50 3-4 days to recover from the same thing as a 25-year-old. And then on top of that, are you freaking kidding me? On top of that, the biological engines that repair our bodies, like hormones and testosterone, they drop 2% annually every year once we hit 30. You know, we simply just don't have internal chemistry to heal quickly anymore. So overtraining just breaks us down instead of building us up. So this means that the math has completely changed. When you train too hard without proper recovery, you trigger chronic inflammation, potentially elevated cortisol levels. The consequences of ignoring these symptoms isn't just physical. When you overtrain, the first thing to go is your sleep quality. You wake up exhausted, irritable, and joint sore. Hello. And then comes the inevitable injury. In my case, I got a strong reminder of overtraining just a few months ago. I had physical reactions to an intense amount of acidic buildup in my muscles. It scared me awake at night, and even for a few days until I got it checked. And then on top of it, living on a modest budget means preserving your health has to be a priority. You don't have the funds for a chronic medical issue that could be prevented. Your funds will be totally shot just getting medical treatment unless you have really good insurance. But on a modest budget, I don't. Everything's out of pocket for me. And I'm really talking to myself here. An injury in retirement doesn't just pause your workouts. It'll drop your lifestyle with a treatment that could suck your bank account dry. It also means that you can't do some things comfortably that you enjoyed before, like motorbike. I actually used to enjoy getting on my motorbike to go where I needed to go around town. But I only do this out of convenience now. I much prefer the vehicle as I'm getting older. It could turn your whole retirement into something that feels like a physical prison. Let me tell you how this played out for me. Back in January, when I first returned to Laos, I hit the gym hard. I haven't been in a real gym in almost 8 years because I couldn't afford the real gym in Bangkok. I decided to use the exact same workout that got me into shape 15 years ago, but when I was 40 and I was still working. You know, we're talking about a workout that's 6 days a week, 2 hours a day, heavy lifting throughout the week. I did it at 6 a.m. and then I'd go to work. But back then, the routine got me amazingly lean and feeling fantastic and looking really good just within a few months after I returned from Africa. But naturally, I wanted to get that same result back, and I thought I could do it again within the same amount of time, especially since I have more time. But this time, however, it's 5 months later and the reality is completely different. I'm constantly sore, I'm more tired, and I'm not sleeping well, and I had that very scary health issue. So after researching why I might not be getting the same results, the only conclusion that I'm coming to is I'm training too much. It's what I'm hearing over and over, and it's just, you know, the phrase, what you focus on expands. So once you start focusing on something like this, you start getting more news on that particular issue. Everything I'm reading and hearing says that my age, I need significantly more recovery time, and I should reduce the weight room intensity down by 80% what I'm currently doing, at least until I get to a healthier point. And I'm cutting my workouts down from 4 days to 3 days and to only an hour the other 2 to 3 days of some light cardio. The biggest lesson is shifting my mindset from intensity to consistency. In my 20s, the goal of working out was performance and maximum strength for sports. And let's be honest, I also wanted to look good for the chicks. But over 50, the focus really should change. You know, the ultimate goal of fitness is longevity, mobility, and injury prevention. So this is my current blueprint of staying fit without breaking the machine. The first one is, if I lift heavy or do an intense workout, I will force myself to do a 48 to 72 hour recovery, maybe a light active recovery, before targeting the same muscle groups again. The second one is, your body will whisper to you before it screams. If a joint feels slightly off, if your energy levels are not completely drained, that is not a cue to push through the pain. That is a red flag to rest. This is really hard for me because I really like to push myself. The third one is, never underestimate the effectiveness of low impact training. Shift some of the focus away from heavy weights to things like daily walking, some Tai Chi. Keep the hips, the ankles, and the knees as mobile as possible, especially when they start feeling like the cement is setting in the joints faster than usual. And the fourth one is hard for me to accept. My six-pack days have probably passed. And I know it sounds vain, but hey, most people want to try to look as good as they can. I had a six-pack for a majority of my life, and I still want to look good naked, but I'll just be happier knowing that my core health is good and it stays there. That's the most important thing. I'm deteriorating at a slower rate than I would be if I was overtraining. So health in retirement is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So we work too hard and we spend it sitting on a couch nursing a torn ligament that might take twice as long to heal. The average person should train for the age that you are. Emphasize recovery, and let's try to keep our machines running as smoothly and as long as they can. They're going to break down, but let's try and delay that as long as possible. So if you're navigating fitness, health, and daily life in early retirement and on a modest budget, hit the subscribe button. Let me know what your gym routines are, and if you have any injury or recovery tips you want to share with me, I'd love to hear from you. So this is Troysa Winding Down Chronicles, and that's this week's retirement fail, so you don't have to make it. See you in the next one.